What's up, guys? Welcome to another Q&A episode. So I get this question a lot, and I just got it again recently on the last video that I did. I think it was on the video, or was it on a post? I don't remember. Whatever. I just got it. So the question is basically, do I need camo to get good wildlife images? Basically, if you're watching a video on this, then you should probably assume the answer is not going to be yes or no. At least not on my channel anyways. But the answer is yes and no. And that really depends on what you're after. So let's talk about scenarios and let's talk about camo, what it does and why, and some misconceptions and all of that kind of stuff. So first off, obviously, yes, camo can help you, camo will help you, but no, it is not the end-all be-all of getting better photography for wildlife stuff. If you're not new to my channel, then you'll know that when I go out for wildlife, sometimes I use it and sometimes I don't. And I think that is, and a lot of other people too. I'm not the only wildlife photographer out there. And I think when people getting into wildlife photography, when they see that other pros and big wildlife photographers and stuff, when they see the inconsistency, maybe that lends to a little bit of like, I don't know what's going on here. Do I really need this or not? And then I think it also stems from frustration. There's a lot of frustration when it comes to wildlife photography, a lot more so in the beginning, at least from a knowledge standpoint. In the beginning, if you're just getting into wildlife photography, you don't know what's going on. Either you don't know photography that well or wildlife photography that well, or you don't know the animals that well, or both. And maybe you just want to get into it because you think it'll be fun. And it is fun, but it's very stressful and it's very difficult. And I think that frustration can seep into or lead into the kind of thoughts of like, what do I need to get better? And oftentimes people don't look inside, they look outside for what they need to get better. And by that I mean gear. So what things can I get, can I acquire? Because that's the easiest way of doing anything is you could just go buy something to make you better, or make something or find something, a thing to make you better. That's partially true here. The biggest thing though, and I say this a lot, is that knowledge is going to make you the best photographer, especially when it comes to wildlife. Knowing the animals and learning what they do, their habits and everything like that, that's going to make you better than anything right off the bat. Followed by learning your gear. I made a video about this recently, I think, about what you really need for wildlife. So that all touches on that stuff. But camo is important, but it's not always important. And sometimes it is extremely important. And that's when it comes down to knowing your animals and knowing what you're after. The comment that I got specifically, I'll address that real quick, recently, I think was on one of my last videos where I went out I was photographing ducks at a pond. Let me just read the comment real quick. So it says, I'm curious about how important camo actually is in these situations. Is staying still and quiet not sufficient, especially given the distance? What type of shots do you think you miss? What type of shots do you think you miss out on without the camo? And let's talk about that. So he's referring to the last video where, if you haven't seen it, you can check it out if you're interested in the field wildlife. I went out and tested out a ground pod. I've never used one before, and I wanted to just kind of lay down and stake out the ducks for a while. So this is where knowing your animals is really important. So ducks are pretty skittish by nature. They kind of have to be. We are land mammals, and they have evolved to fear land mammals because land mammals kill ducks. And in no other mammal is that more prevalent than the human species. We kill more than anything else on Earth. So naturally, lots of animals, especially ducks, are quite skittish, but not all ducks. And I think, there's a lot of misconception here. Obviously, you can go to your park, your local city park or whatever, and you can see a lot of domesticated ducks who get fed and who are used to being around people, and they'll come up to you. That's not the scenario I was in. I'm in an alpine lake in the middle of the Gila wilderness. There's not a lot of people out here where I am, or where I was for that video, and the animals out there are not used to people, so they're very skittish anyways. But then there's also like different types of species of, in this case, ducks. Some ducks are more tolerant of people anyways. You're more likely to get close to a coot than you are to a merganser, of any type. It's just knowing your animals, that really helps. So in this case, I'm photographing grebes, I'm photographing ruddy ducks, I'm photographing mergansers, A lot of these types, cinnamon teals, a lot of these types of ducks are very skittish and they don't come very close. So saying, is staying still and quiet not sufficient? For these types of cases, no, that's not sufficient, because you're really underestimating animals' ability to recognize a human form. So even if they couldn't recognize a human form, which they can, most animals, including all these ducks that we're talking about right now, can they not only can they recognize a human form, but it's a land mammal that's perceivably stalking them. You know, that is an evolutionary like cue to bounce. Chalks out, you know, we're out of here. So no, a lot of, skin tone, our skin tone is very recognizable to animals and to ducks and birds. So the camo does two things. It breaks up our body shape, and it hides our skin. I just have a camo hoodie that covers everything but my eyes. For the most part, my eyes are behind my camera and my camera's covered. And then if I'm camoed, the important bit there is definitely not moving. So movement is going to attract their attention more than anything. Even if you're completely camoed up, if you move, there again, that instinct of something on the shore is stalking me, they see that movement, they sense it, they're going to bounce. They don't even have to know what you are or recognize you to know that they need to leave. So camo right there, that's an example of camo like not being effective. And it's not that the camo is not effective, it's that you're moving around. And for some animals, it's smell. If you're going after elk or mammals that have a very good sense of smell and that use that, then you could be perfectly camoed, perfectly still. You could be in a blind, and if they smell you, if they smell your deodorant, your cologne, your aftershave, your perfume, the snacks that you just ate, your natural human body odor, I mean, all of that, any of that and all of that will cause an elk to bounce, or any other kind of animal that you're looking for that uses smell as one of its main senses. But then conversely, even if you didn't have the camo and you didn't have the blind in those situations, you wouldn't get close to the animals anyway. So you might have a chance, even if they do smell you, or even if they do see you twitch or something, you might still have a chance. Whereas if you were just out there sitting still, like in drab clothing and whatever, they would have seen you way easier, and then you wouldn't have had the chance to get them to come close. The other misconception here, like with my video or with maybe any other videos or images that you might see online, is that especially given the distance, that's what this guy says right here, is laying still and being quiet not sufficient, especially given the distance. I think he's implying, or he's assuming, that the ducks were really far away from me and that they were far enough to not care or be cool or whatever. Well, that may be true, and there were instances in the video where the ducks were far away from me and I'm complaining, but that's why I put the blind out. That's why I put the ghillie suit on over me and over my camera and lay real still and stay there for an hour, because I'm hoping that they'll come closer. And they wouldn't come closer if they can see me sitting without anything, that's the point. So the point is not that they're really far away. The point is to try to get them to come closer, that's what the camo and being in a blind and a ghillie suit and all of that stuff will allow. It will allow you the opportunity for them not to see you until they're closer. But you have to know what you're after, with ducks being in camo and laying down and throwing a camo blanket or a ghillie blanket or something like that over you, or putting up a little tarp, using the ghillie blanket, the ghillie poncho that I have, I can just tie it out and leave it like as a, like a little wall, and it's got a little hole in the middle where the poncho normally is, where the head goes through. I can put my tripod and camera like right through there and then be sitting behind a wall. Is it 100% perfect? No, but as long as you're not moving too much, again, like that's going to minimize a lot. That's going to allow the animals to feel comfortable and to get a little closer to you without realizing or thinking that they might be in danger. The other thing that camo allows that you might not be thinking about is some animals might be cool. They might be okay with you being there. Like if you're not wearing camo, if you're sitting really still and they're used to you, a lot of people will say, well, just go sit down in front of the birds until they'll acclimate to you. They'll get used to you. Maybe that's true for some things. But there's also a level of normal behavior that a lot of animals will display or not display depending on their environmental comfort level. And so that's the other thing that camo and blinds and ghillie suits and all of that allow you to potentially have access to is natural behavior. And as a wildlife photographer and a nature enthusiast, and that's what I care about. I care about natural behavior. I don't want to be taking pictures of birds if they're just like not comfortable, or any animal if they're not comfortable and they're like really tense and they're not doing anything. If my presence is causing them to be uncomfortable, that's bad for them. It's bad for the environment, but it's also selfishly it's bad for the photography. Like, it's just, you're not going to get great images. You're not going to get these interesting behavioral stuff that you want to see and photograph. You might just get like a random portrait, or like you can tell that the animal looks really tense and is nervous or something. If that's because of you, then, I don't know. It depends on your ethics. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you do care. That's something to consider. But that's definitely another big positive that camo and blinds and ghillie suits allow. They allow for that potential to have a more relaxed environment and for you to get more relaxed behavioral images and videos. So on the opposite side of that, just, that makes everything I said, I think, makes a lot of sense, and is definitely for camo. I do use it. I do believe that it works. However, like, again, with the misconceptions is that, like, or the inconsistencies that you see in social media with my channel and anybody else's, we're not always in camo, or we're not always staying still, or we're not always abiding by that. We're not always trying to be the sneakiest, stealthiest, most hidden. Sometimes we just want to go for a walk and take a camera and see what we see. And, sometimes I just wear casual camo, like I just wear my camo pants and maybe a camo shirt, but I don't have anything on. I don't have gloves. I don't have my hat, none of that. I don't have a ghillie suit. But in those situations, at least with me, I'm always aware that, like, okay, I know that I'm not putting a super amount of effort into this. So that's when you're just betting on luck. You're hoping that staying still and just standing by this tree and watching the birds, maybe you'll get something good. And a lot of times you do. Again, in a lot of my videos, I'm just walking around. I'm half wearing camo or whatever, And in a lot of those videos, I do get some pretty decent images. But that's where you have to decide if going the extra mile and investing in camo, whether, most of my camo is like either really cheap stuff from Amazon or like thrift store, Army Salvation store. A lot of the stuff that I have, my old camo from the military, that, that I've just kept that still fits. I mean, whatever, you can get stuff on the cheap. It's not about spending money, and you don't have to spend a lot to get decent. I mean, Walmart has camo. You can get a camo shirt. That camo shirt that I'm always wearing, I got it at Walmart for $3, literally $3 on sale. Is it the best camo shirt in the world? No. But does it do the job? Yeah, especially when I'm in a blind or under my ghillie suit anyways. So the biggest takeaways here are just really like, understand your animals, and then understand your photography, your gear, and then understand what you want to get out of all of that. That's like this whole just big Venn diagram or triangle or whatever. And you need to figure out what you want out of all of that. What do you want out of the animals? What do you want out of your photos? And what are you willing to do to get that? Or what do you need to do? If you're cool with just walking around and using luck and skill and all of that and combining those and just getting the best that you can get, then there you go. But if you want the chance to potentially get something amazing and you want to minimize the luck and maximize success, luck is, what's that saying? Luck is just opportunity for the prepared. I think that's what it is. Something like that. You get the idea, right? The more prepared you are and the more willing you are to do what it takes to get a certain shot, you're minimizing risk, you're minimizing luck, and you're maximizing your chances. And statistically, there's always going to be a little of luck involved and a little risk involved, whatever. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to minimize that. That's where camo comes in. That's where ghillie suits come in. That's where blinds come in. That's where, you know, the extra effort comes in. And more importantly, just like I said in one of my other recent videos about what you really need for wildlife, the most important thing, again, is time. You know, the more time you can spend out there, none of this matters if you can't spend enough time out there. because animals are wild, you know, unless you're dealing with domesticated animals or zoo animals, neither of which I tend to play with that much. I'm out in the wild. So for me especially, like, I have to spend a lot of time. And unfortunately, statistics are against you there. More often than not, you're going to be disappointed when you're in wildlife photography. But those highs, for me, they make it really high, and they make it absolutely worth dealing with the lows when everything works out. All right, well, I hope that helps you understand just kind of my thoughts and my approach to camo and the whens and the wheres and the whys. If there's anything that I missed, or you have any thoughts on camo, or or wildlife photography shooting methods or anything like that, leave those in the comments below. I love to read them. I know everybody else, the community here really helps each other. So let us know what you think. And with that, I'm going to end it with a little teaser. I don't know if anybody has noticed that little guy right there. I just got that yesterday. Very excited about it. I'm going to be playing with it. I'm going to be messing around. It's a new toy, and I'm going to be seeing how it compares to something like that bigger guy. I've had a lot of questions. If you're a channel member, then or follow me on Instagram, then you already know what that is. And if not, then I'll leave it a secret until either you figure it out or you go follow me on Instagram or channel membership, which really supports the channel, and I appreciate it greatly. All right, it's chai time, and then it's editing time, and then it's shooting time. I'm gonna go back out with those guys here in a little bit. So thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hit that like button if you haven't already. That's the best thing you can do for the channel. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.